Please subscribe this new channel youtube.com/yourmalaka to encourage me to continue preservation works on Malacca's past and present events, heritage, history, traditions for the future younger generations.
请帮忙订阅这个新频道 youtube.com/yourmalaka，以鼓励我继续努力保留马六甲的文化、历史及传统，为了新一代的年轻人。
Next slide, please. My paper has got three parts: Cheng the admiral, Cheng the merchant, and Cheng the Muslim. But because of the interest of time, I don't have time to go through all. So I'll just review the last bit, which I think is the more interesting bit, which is Cheng the Muslim. Can we skip this slide and the next slide and this one? Just stay on that one. Okay, I'll just read from the text. Cheng came from a prominent Muslim family in Yunnan, whose ancestors migrated from Central Asia. Can I just hold this? In 1070 from the Song dynasty, his great-great-grandfather, Shai Ajil Shamsuddin, rose to become the governor of Yunnan during the Yuan dynasty. Despite his Muslim background, he was not hostile to other faiths. He carried out imperial decrees to build mosques and masjid, temples in China, and presented gifts to a Buddhist temple in Ceylon as part and parcel of his diplomatic duties. He even allowed altars to be set on board of treasure ships for the crew members to worship the goddess of the sea to seek her protection for a safe journey. Performance of pilgrimages is the most important duty for a Muslim, and Cheng was so preoccupied with his mission that he failed to make the trip to Mecca, though he was in the vicinity of Arab Peninsula several times. Nevertheless, during his last voyage from Hormuz, he sent a few Muslim crew members on a pilgrimage to Mecca. More pertinently, as a Hui Muslim, Cheng is the embodiment of China's multiculturalism. Straddling between the Chinese and Muslim milieu, the admiral reportedly played a role in the spread of Islam in Southeast Asia. Though no direct records were found, there were grounds to believe that the effect of Ming China's strong support and Cheng's expedition to some extent was one of the factors that influenced the Malacca Sultanate's conversion to Islam. Parameswara, the first ruler, might have been grateful and honored for the world's superpower to single out Malacca as a key strategic partner in the imperial system of world order. The partnership immediately linked Malacca to the regional and international political and trade networks under the patronage of the Ming China. Cheng's making of China and Malacca a regional headquarters for his diplomatic and trade missions has almost instantly enhanced Parameswara's stature as an up-and-coming political leader, and Malacca's status as the regional political and economic center in the Malay world. His first royal visit to the Ming court in 1411 and the extremely warm reception in person by Emperor Yongle was an eye-opener for Parameswara to see the superiority of Ming China in culture, technology, might, and wealth. This reinforced his impression of a strong and wealthy China when he saw, with great amazement, the might of Cheng's fleet when the fleet called at Malacca. But the fact that a Muslim unit such as Cheng was the commander of the world's biggest fleet had undoubtedly left a deep impression on Parameswara. To him, Cheng might have been a living Islamic symbol of a cynical power and influence of Muslims in the Ming court. Today, Muslims in Southeast Asia still regard Cheng as a Muslim hero, and this is an important legacy as the PRC re-engages the world, including the Islamic civilization. As a matter of fact, not since the days of Cheng has the Chinese state expanded itself so widely across the four seas. Through the Belt and Road Initiative, China's imprints are being felt throughout Asia, if not globally. And these footprints are crisscrossing national boundaries as well as civilizational frontiers. And these encounters are heightening the risk and conflict of a different genre of what Samuel Huntington called the clash of civilization. According to Huntington, conflicts between civilization was a plunder of between nation states and ideologies that characterized the earlier centuries One of the main reasons why this is likely because the differences between civilizations are so fundamental, especially on matters relating to religions. Disputes on subject of faith and belief are less mutable, and they are not as easy to compromise and resolve as compared to political and economic contestation. Compounding this predicament is the fact that the world is becoming a much smaller place. As a result, interactions between the world religions are increasing, which intensify civilizational consciousness. While it heightens awareness of commonalities within, it also brings into sharper focus the differences between civilizations, and this can generate animosity. In a post-Cold War world order, Seymour Huntington sees a major shift of economic, military, and political power from the West to other civilizations of the world. And importantly, he identified the Islamic and Semitic world as the two most significant challenger civilizations to the West. In Huntington's assessment, the Islamic civilization has experienced a massive population expansion which is causing instability both on the borders of Islam and its interior, where fundamentalist and militant movements are becoming increasingly popular. Manifestation of what Huntington terms the Islamic resurgence include the 1979 Iranian Revolution and the First Gulf War. In East Asia, the Sinic or Chinese civilization is seen as representing a worldview fundamentally different from the Christian West. And due to its rapid economic growth, China has become a competitor vis-a-vis the US for regional as well as global hegemony. This geopolitical challenge also has a cultural dimension, as the Chinese world asserts itself with its underlying value system. In fact, the rise of China is assessed by Huntington as posing one of the most critical dilemma and long-term threat to the existing Western-led world order. Without question, for 4 decades after the Reform era, China has regained its standing as an international actor, and the Chinese sway can now be felt across the world's continent. Not only is this generating socio-economic dynamism, China's ascension is similarly causing upheaval along diverse spheres, including the civilizational frontiers. The BRI is an example of how China's growing global presence is facing some cultural-related challenges. Here in Malaysia, this takes the shape of the Chinese Confucian and Malay-Islamic encounter. To be sure, the Sino-Malaysia relationship has not been adversely affected by this civilizational tension, but ongoing domestic saga within China pertaining to the Uyghurs, for instance, is undermining China's standing in the Muslim world, including Malaysia. Still largely a secular atheist state, the PRC, the People's Republic of China, continues to face challenges managing its religious constituents generally and its Muslim community in particular. These internal difficulties could take on an international dimension as China makes inroads into countries with radically diverse civilizational composition. However, if Cheng He's remarkable cultural legacy is a strong indicator that the contemporary Chinese world, as its ancient forebears, is likely to continue to strive to sustain a multi-religious milieu with a pluralistic ethos, while its actualization is more the exception than the norm. Confucian China vision is an inclusive one to bring about the harmonious coexistence of the world's diverse civilization. Let me just conclude now. One of the most celebrated maritime expeditions, Cheng He's voyages was truly epoch-making in varied ways. Casting the sway of main China across the last swath of Asia, it reinforced Imperial China's tributary ties with the periphery states, including the Sultanate of Melaka. Cheng He's armada helped sustain a sphere of influence, a peace and security in which Oceanic Asia was able to trade and prosper. As I just presented, in this main era feed are valuable historical lessons for the contemporary world. By revisiting Cheng He's rich legacy, we inherit a guidepost to navigate the treacherous currents of the 21st century. Uncertainties and risks accompany any power transition, The present US-China rivalry is no different. But if the past or Zhenghe history specifically is a guide, then there are reasons to believe that Beijing would seek to avert any open conflict. Imperial China was never an expansionist colonial power. Unless provoked, is likely to stay the course of a peaceful rise. And it was during the Zhenghe's Ming China, trade and commerce is driving modern China outward push. The Belt and Road Initiative, for instance, is China's main locomotive powering Pan-Asia economic revitalization. There are bumps ahead to be sure, but the Chinese engineer development is expected to generate significant uplift across the region. Last and not least, from the Malaysia perspective, Zhenghe's unique Muslim heritage is of great significance. It provides historical reassurances that modern China would stay committed to its ancient, inclusive vision where civilizations of the world could coexist harmoniously. Thank you very much.
Please subscribe this new channel youtube.com/yourmalaka to encourage me to continue preservation works on Malacca's past and present events, heritage, history, traditions for the future younger generations.
请帮忙订阅这个新频道 youtube.com/yourmalaka 以鼓励我继续努力保留马六甲的文化、历史及传统为了新一代的年轻人。